Good morning, Facebookers. I hope everyone is well. I don't know who's on. Some of y'all might see it later. But right now, I just wanted to come on while it's on my mind. Because I was thinking about it yesterday. Employers, employees, and domestic violence. And I just wanted to say to you all, some of you, if you are a boss and you have employees, and vice versa, I want to know if some of you have, and this is not to answer it, but I want to know if some of you have open door policies. I'm trying to drive and do this, so hold on, y'all. Work with me. I'm trying to drive and do this. Okay. Again, this is a quick conversation for jobs. But I say employers, employees, and domestic violence. So just curious if, some of you as bosses have a real open door policy. Do you support domestic violence? And the reason I say that is because not just now, but extremely now, with all that is going on and the tension that's going on, if some of these jobs that are still open, if you don't have an open door policy, or you are against domestic violence, but you don't have that open door policy, or you're not sure how it goes, I just want to ask of you, if you are against domestic violence, even if you have cards or something that you can get from the spring, or if you inbox me, I can send you something that will tell your job, your employers, and your employees, because some may be bosses and have supervisors or what have you, that you support domestic violence. Even if you have something up in the bathroom on the wall that say, I support domestic violence. Even if you have something in your handbooks, your job handbooks, that you support domestic violence, and you're against it. For me, the reason why this touched me is because this is such a tense time, and some people are still working, some are not. But the ones that still go to work, and this is not just for the bosses, it's for the employees to look at your supervisor or your boss, because that person may be having a bad day and you're thinking that they just being snobby, but your boss could be in domestic violence. Domestic violence doesn't discriminate, and domestic violence does not care about your title or your position at the job. I know when I was going through domestic violence, I hid it from my bosses, and they love me. I still call them my mom and pa right now today. When I worked at George F. Young Engineering, Keena and Rick was there for me. I hid the domestic violence. Hey, Auntie Mary, good morning. I hid it from them because, again, I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. But what happened was, because I was the receptionist and I took a lot of the plans to the different places, I had a speaking engagement on my lunch, and it was a lunch and learn for Bay Area Legal Services. So I went to the lunch and learn, and one of our top big people that normally we do plans for, they happened to be at the meeting. And when I was at the meeting, I had no clue who they were. We talked all the time. We talked all the time by phone and everything. But while I was at the speaking, and I was speaking about domestic violence because I had come out of it by then, but I was still going through the process of the courts, him stalking me and all that other stuff. And after I finished speaking, the man stood up and he said, "You work for George F. Young." And my heart fell, because I'm like, oh my gosh, how do he know me? Because I hadn't told my bosses that I was in domestic violence. And I'm like, yeah. and I don't want to put their name out. And he said, I am such and such from such and such. I talk to you all the time, and now I can put a face with the conversation, with the name and who I talked to. And my heart, my adrenaline was going. However, that man wrote a $10,000 check to Bay Area Legal Services to donate towards domestic violence. And by the time I got back to work, my heart's racing. My boss called me in and he's like, why didn't you tell me what you were going through? And I was so ashamed and so embarrassed. And I told him I was ashamed. And him and Ma, I call him Ma and Pa, they were so angry about the situation of me going through domestic violence. Not at me, but the domestic violence. And they had me get a picture of the person I was going through the domestic violence with, and they scanned his picture throughout the entire office. And they sat me down and they talked to me. I told them what had been going on, how he was threatening me, how he would watch me at the job and everything. When I tell you that entire job rose up, all the surveyors, the engineers, they rose up like you wouldn't believe. They had his picture pasted all around that office so that if they so much as saw him, it was going to be a problem. And I'm sitting yesterday just, thinking about so much and had a conversation with somebody, and we was talking about domestic violence in the workplace and how some people go to work like I did, wearing shades on a day like this. What you got on shades for? Because my eyes black, the insides of my jaws all swollen, mouth all bloody inside, body sore, and I'm treading lightly because I don't want them to know nothing wrong. And they had no clue what was going on. So it bothered me. So I'm like, I wonder how many people go to work. And I know we're embarrassed and we don't want to talk about it. We don't want our bosses to know, because some people don't want that at their job and they'll release. I've seen that too. Domestic violence, the person in domestic violence, they find a reason to get rid of them because we're in a right to work state of Florida or something like that. They can fire you for whatever reason and no excuse is necessary or whatever, something like that. But some people don't want to deal with domestic violence at the workplace, which is 100% understandable. However, there are some jobs that will rise up like mine did at the time, and like the one that I'm at now will rise up if I needed it. I don't need it now. To God be the glory. However, my job that I was at rose up, and that was the first time they ever had to deal with that on impact such as they did. And so how many jobs, my husband trying to call me, y'all, how many jobs are backing up domestic violence? How many jobs are saying, if you're going through domestic violence, let me know. If you're going through this, let me know and I'll support you. If you're going through this, we're behind you 100%. If you're going through this, come and talk to us. We got your back. And how many like me who've gone through domestic violence can see that your boss is going through it and feel like you don't want to say anything because it's your boss. Domestic violence don't care who it touch. Some people will beg to differ, but it's just like cancer. Cancer don't care who it touch. Child, old person, young person, it doesn't care who it touch. And so does domestic violence. Domestic violence does not care about your pedigree. It will touch you. So I just wanted to ask that if you all that are working and you are the boss and you say you have an open door policy, maybe you should talk to maybe you in your staff meeting, if you have staff meeting, just kind of throw it out there that you are against domestic violence. You have an open door policy. If anybody needs help or anybody need to talk, that you're there as their boss. And if somebody that you work with, if you've been through domestic violence and you know that somebody you work with is going through domestic violence, why don't you just pull them over and say, hey, are you okay? Sometimes just are you okay will cause somebody to talk. Sometimes you may have to, gosh, let me call my husband. Sometimes you have to come in and you have to ask people every day. You can't just assume, people are being snobby and you be mean as well. Hold on, I gotta tell my husband I'm doing a live. Okay, I'm sorry. Sometimes you have to ask people every day. Sometimes, like I know my pastor has spoken before, like when you come into church and somebody mind is in another place and you say good morning and they don't say it, and now you got an attitude. They trying to be funny, or that person that normally speaks to you every morning don't speak to you this morning. They trying to be funny, and it's not that. They don't even see you. They don't even acknowledge that you are there because they're going through something. My Mima just came online. Mima, you missed it. I was just talking about you and Paul. They don't even acknowledge that you're there because they're going through something so deep that I don't even see you right now. So sometimes you have to not think about yourself and say it's all about you, and say later on, are you okay? Is everything okay? And if you say that you are of God, you might have to take off your flesh hat and step into a place where you pray for them. Go to your desk and pray for them. Ask them if they're okay. But again, domestic violence doesn't discriminate. And I said I wasn't going to be on here long, so I am about to get off. My purpose was to come on was to ask people who work, if you are a boss, if you have employees, do you have the open door policy for your coworkers to come in and tell you that they're going through domestic violence? Do you have an open door policy that if they are running or whatever the case may be, do you have an open door policy that your coworker feels safe enough, confident enough to come and tell you that they're in domestic violence? And sometimes they won't come tell you. But if you just be vigilant, just be watchful, especially during this time, because somebody is getting up, coming to work every day and just been beat all night long. I'm one of those. And like I said, when I worked at George F. Young, once they found out about it, they supported me 100%. Anything I needed, anything the kids needed, if I needed to run, whatever it is I needed, all I had to do was say it, and they backed me up to the max. So right now, especially during this time, and don't just look at females. Yes, males go through domestic violence, even if it's a nagging woman, an abusive mouth woman. Sometimes you just won't see it, but some of you can see it. So right now, if you are at work and you're working every day, talk to your coworkers. Have a staff meeting. If you got a feeling one of your coworkers or one of the people are going through domestic violence, have a staff meeting and just generally talk. Ask everybody how they're doing, how they're coming along. Is everything okay? And just let them know, hey, if anybody's going through any type of domestic violence, this place here, we back you up. We support you in any way that we can. And we are against domestic violence, and we have an open door policy. If it's something you're going through personally, it's okay. Send me a text, send me an email, that we need to have a meeting. It's not that the whole office is going to know. And if you are the boss and somebody comes to you personally and say that they're in domestic violence, I pray that you are a boss that is able to keep that private and not spread it through the office. I don't care if you have an assistant. If that person say, I don't want your assistant to know, I just want you to know, I pray that you respect that, because domestic violence is something, if you've never dealt with it, it's something that is so shameful and so hurtful and so degrading. So if it starts to go through the office like a wildfire, you've just put that person in position for shame. They can't afford to quit their job, but now you got them walking around the office and everybody's asking if they're all right. They're whispering. That's why some people don't talk about it as well. So if you're working during this time of this pandemic, have a staff meeting. Just call a staff meeting and just ask everybody how they're doing individually. It depends on how many in your company. Have a staff meeting. Type up a letter, newsletter. Go on Constant Contact. Type up a letter, ask everybody how they're doing. Put some little bullet points in there. Just wanted to let you know. I know this is a strenuous time right now. Everybody's going through stuff. There may be some tension in the house, the tension in the home, or whatever. However you want to word it. If you have a big company and you just need to get it out to everybody, do a Constant Contact that you can send out to all of them and just say, we just want to let you know, we know there's a lot of tension. Some may be going through tension at the home, but we are here to support you in any way. And again, domestic violence does not have to be physical. It can be verbal. Somebody can be going home being cursed out every day. Words will stick. You can slap somebody. Out of all the years, the 10.5 years of domestic violence I went through, I cannot tell you what every hit felt like. I can still tell you I got the residue of the pains, the residue of the fibromyalgia and all that stuff that came with it. However, I cannot tell you I remembered the slap. But some of those words that were said to me, I can still hear them, and the enemy still sometimes try to bring those words up at me right now, even though I've been out of it for years. I'm married, got a whole new husband that don't speak nothing to me but life and love. But even still, I still hear some of those words. I still can remember. I could be doing something, and out of nowhere, the enemy will rise that word up in my ear, and I have to shake myself loose. I have to encourage myself. I have to rebuke and everything else. So people don't have to be going through something physical. So don't be looking for somebody to come in with shades on or walking funny or they bike hurt. They could be being torn down with words. So I say to you, and even employees, if you check your boss, make sure your boss is not going through nothing at home. Again, during this time I've been speaking on domestic violence. As much as I've been speaking, I've heard so many people. I've even spoken to a judge that grew up in domestic violence when she first started, and then when she got married, she first started going through the domestic violence. She had to pull a knife as a judge, went on the bench every morning and was being abused by her husband, but nobody knew until she pulled a knife on him. But she beat the case because she had records and people knew it. I've talked to people, of course, many people in church, even pastors' wives that sat in the church and being abused. It doesn't discriminate. So if you got somebody, you can't just think their title exempts them from being abused. So look at your people, look at your daughters. Look at your son, because I know so many people that talk against domestic violence, and it couldn't be them, it couldn't be you, it couldn't be this, it might not be you, it might be your daughter, it might be your granddaughter, it might be your son, might be your grandson. So you need to be vigilant, you need to be watchful of what you say out your mouth about domestic violence, and not look at yourself just because you might not go through it. It might skip you and go on to your daughter who won't say anything at all. It might go through your son who won't say anything because you raised him as a man to not hit a woman. So this woman got a fly mouth, always got something to say out of her mouth, disrespectful, and think it's cute and think the man is weak just because he won't punch her in the nose or something. And some women are so used to be in abusive relationships that when they get with a man that won't slap them, cuss them out, they try to taunt that man to try to push his buttons, and then if he won't slap her or disrespect her, then she call him a weak man and call him all out his name. Ladies, I tell you the truth, it's not a beautiful thing. I think some of y'all think it's cute because it was once me. I tell you that on every live I do. It was once me. My mouth was so ugly. My mouth was so foul. I would say stuff to a man to make him fall into a fetal position like a child. My mouth was horrible, but I thank God that he turned this nasty mouth into a mouth that was speaking tongues, singing tongues, just worship him in tongues. He turned these tongues around for his glory. So ladies, don't think it's cute that you disrespect the man. And don't think it's cute that you put your hand on a man. I am so against domestic violence. I lived in it 10.5 years. I believe in telling a man if she put her hands on you, put her in jail. Don't holler about that. That'll make me look like a chump. Put her in jail. Lock her up. The same way if you was to push her down, she gonna call the police on you and you gonna go to jail for defending yourself. Lock her up. Lock her up. Get her off you. defend yourself, but put her in jail. Women have to learn the same thing. Don't put your hands on nobody. All that people saying, well, men hit harder than women. We women can hit hard. Bottom line is, women, keep your hands off these men, and keep your disrespectful tongue off these men, and then call them cowards because they won't knock you down or slap you or disrespect you and call you out your name, because sometimes y'all been so used to that until it seems not right if you get a man that talk to you like you're somebody, talk to you like you're supposed to be talked to. So again, I got to go home. I think my husband waiting on me before this rain start, even though I got to get back to work. But I want y'all to be safe, be watchful. If you're in domestic violence, the spring is open. The lawyer referral is open, 813-221-7780. I don't have the spring number right in front of me because I'm driving, but you can Google it, the Spring of Tampa Bay. They're open. The courts are open for domestic violence right now. Domestic violence cases for injunctions or whatever has to be dealt with about domestic violence. So it's open right now. And just be safe, like I said. And there is life after the abuse. I'm a witness. I lived it 10.5 years. I'm out of it now. To God be the glory. And I thank God that for allowing me to share my testimony. Some of you, I have a book about someone almost loved me to death. I thank God I don't look like what he found me in. And I thank God I don't look like what I've been through, because there should be times when I know I was supposed to be dead, but the power of God, the blood, his grace and his mercies kept me, because domestic violence that I endured, I was supposed to be dead. I love you too, Chastity. Love you. I know that I'm not supposed to be alive, but it was by the grace and mercies of God. And there's no way the 10.5 years that I went through with domestic violence, being beat on, spit on, kicked on, mistreated, dogged out, hit with the gun, so many things that I went through. Had to sleep in the parks, sleep inside the church, run for my life, hide my children, 5 children in a 2-door Chevette. Come on, Jesus. God is so amazing. I just love him because he kept me and he didn't leave me like he found me. 10.5 years. Some say, why you stayed that long? You have to buy the book, or I'll do another live on it. But 10.5 years gave me all the more a greater testimony about the goodness of Jesus, because he kept me. Some people stayed in domestic violence a year, and some people are looking up from their grave. God chose for me not to go to the grave. So I choose to open my mouth and speak loudly about domestic violence, because domestic violence is real. And we can't say that it's not going to happen to us, because it wasn't supposed to happen to me. I was a big mouth. I wish a man would. I'd kill him. I'd throw grits on him. I'd do all this stuff. Well, he did for 10.5 years, and I didn't throw grits on him, not now time. And then while I was going through domestic violence, I messed around and got saved, so I couldn't throw no grits on him anyway. I had to wait on Jesus to move him out my way. And I had to wait till I released God's hand, because I was more afraid of that man than I was of God. But when I was no longer feeling sorry for him, see, sometimes we stay in situations because we feel sorry for the person. When you stop feeling sorry for the person, then you can release them. Why we feel sorry for them? Because most of them that abuse ain't got nowhere to go. There's so much that's added to these people that abuse. But when you stop feeling sorry for them, then you're able to let them go. But I thank God that he brought me out. And he brought me out with a shout. He brought me out with a testimony. And I'm still alive. And to God be the glory. Okay, I'm going around these curves. I ain't fixing to look at this camera, because I'm not fixing to be in this water or this ditch while I'm going around these curves. So y'all be blessed. Y'all stay safe. And those of you who's come out of domestic violence, come from behind the wall and shout. Shout with the voice of triumph. Give somebody your testimony. It may just save their lives. There is life after the abuse. Love you.